Okay, so if you've been on Twitter at all this last week, I know what you're thinking. Spider-Man's not in the Marvel Universe anymore? What? There's no way, right? So recently, a rumor surfaced that Sony was going to pull Tom Holland's Spider-Man out of the Marvel Universe, meaning no more Spider-Man in anything Marvel, no more Avengers, no more standalones, nothing. And when I first saw this, I was like, there's no way this is actually real. Spider-Man is such a huge part of the MCU, and they're already on contract for more Spider-Man movies. This has got to be fake. Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it looks like this is true. Why can't we have anything nice? The farther I looked into it and the more details I discovered, I became more and more blown away by what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I have to admit, this makes me really sad. Spider-Man was a huge part of my childhood growing up, and I thought he was the coolest superhero ever. And that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be Spider-Man. And if little me could have seen and realized what an amazing Spider-Man Tom Holland would come to be one day, I would be overwhelmed with the purest form of joy, and then today, only to have it yanked out from under us by Sony's greedy little hands, it's just not fair. How on earth did this happen? Why is this happening? I thought Tom Holland was the best Spider-Man. Did they find someone that's better? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about until the end of this video. Make sure you stick around until the very end because we can't afford to lose this Spider-Man again. And we're going to see just exactly how we can save him from Sony Thanos snapping him out of the MCU. But don't forget, I'll be here making fun videos for you guys every single week. By subscribing, you can stay up to date on all the latest movies and theories that everyone's going to be talking about. All you have to do is go down and hit that red button that says subscribe, and you'll become part of this community that's filled with people that love to talk about the same things that you love to talk about. Now, let's jump right into it and figure out what's happening before there's no more Spider-Man. Now, this all started a week back when that rumor surfaced that Sony and Disney were having some problems over the Spider-Man license, and Sony was going to pull him from the Marvel Universe. This couldn't have happened at a worse time. D23 was coming up and all these amazing new Marvel projects were getting announced, and I can only hope that no Spider-Man projects were disrupted or canceled because of this news. Someone noticed that Tom Holland unfollowed all of Sony's accounts on Instagram, and Zendaya followed suit to support him, it looks like. Now, at first, I was just confused and thought it was some awful Hollywood news clickbait or something because last I heard, Sony made a deal with Marvel that if Spider-Man Far From Home made over $1 billion at the box office, they would let them keep making Spider-Man movies. And of course, Far From Home hit their goal and kept on going. So I thought this locked Marvel in to use Spider-Man in their future movies. But what I didn't know is that out of nowhere, Disney walked up to Sony and demanded 50% of all profits from all future Spider-Man projects. And when I say demanded, that's exactly what I mean. We'll talk about it in a minute, but Sony tried to negotiate and Disney completely refused. They put a price on the table and became relentless. Now, originally the contract was set up so that Sony received 95% of the profit from the box office, and Disney got the other 5% along with all the Spider-Man merchandise sales, which were extremely solid numbers on their own. But now Disney wants to co-finance the movies along with Sony, as well as receive 50% of all the movie's profits. Now, at face value, this shouldn't seem too crazy or out of the ordinary. If Kevin Feige and Marvel are creating something that is creating so much revenue, it would only make sense that they should get some of it too. But the thing is, Sony doesn't have to let Marvel use their character. They bought Spider-Man fair and square back in 1999, and now they completely own him. Marvel tried to sell Sony all of their characters for $25 million, and Sony was like, nope, we just want Spidey Boy. So then they sold Spidey to Sony for a whopping $7 million. But if for some reason they were to sell off Spidey now, it would be something more like $7 billion. Yes, billion with a B. That's crazy. Disney is just borrowing Sony's character to make appearances in their movies in their universe. Sony doesn't have to let them do that. Disney went to Sony, not the other way around. But for Disney to come out of nowhere and go from taking 5% to demanding 50% is insane. I mean, no wonder Sony said no. If they wanted to renegotiate the split, they could have started off by asking for 15 or 20%, not 50. No one negotiates like this, only Disney. I don't blame Sony for walking away. And apparently, even though Sony was still taken back by this crazy offer, they still tried to counter and offer 25%, which is a great first step. Maybe after the next billion-dollar movie, they can move up to 30% and go from there. But no, Disney has to be greedy and take half the revenue. The worst part about this is the leak, in quotation marks, that let us all in on this private business negotiation that's going on. I mean, we've got a good Spider-Man that we like, right? Far From Home is Sony's highest earning movie of all time. There's no doubt that the fans really love this Spider-Man. What if someone leaked to the public that Sony wasn't going to let Spider-Man be in any more Marvel movies because of some little percentage? What? Big bad Sony is taking away our favorite Spider-Man and won't work with Marvel anymore? What? Boycott Sony! Boycott Sony! Of course the fans are going to be outraged and speak out against Sony. I think Disney was playing dirty and sneaked this info out on purpose to peer pressure Sony into giving them whatever they wanted. I'm sure they knew they could probably renegotiate for 15% or something, but they thought they figured out how they could get a whole half of the cake by playing a little dirty, and they went for it. Now, what would Spider-Man be if this is how it will stay forever and there's no more Marvel Universe in the world of Spider-Man? First off, there'd be no more Iron Man. I mean, he was like an Uncle Ben figure to Spider-Man. It would be an injustice for this Spider-Man to go on and never say anything or think about Iron Man ever again. There'd be no Nick Fury, no Skrulls watching over him, no more Avengers, no more Happy with his Aunt May, which would really stink. I really enjoyed their relationship and thought it was one of the most refreshing elements of the last movie. There'd also be no more suits made by Stark, no more Iron Spider or even his basic suit. That means until Peter can figure out how to build a suit as cool as Tony Stark's, we're going back to sweatpants and a hoodie. I mean, all these things just played such a big role in the character arc of Spider-Man, and they each helped mold him into what he is today. Without all these things, he's a completely different Spider-Man. I mean, Tony Stark died for him. There's so much emotional and story-based attachment to all these things. I don't know how much I'd like to see another Spider-Man without all these things. And at this point, Tom Holland just has to idly sit by and watch as these two massive companies fight over his character's direction for the next few years. I wish Disney would keep the fans in mind and just agree to a smaller percentage, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Sony has already walked away and looks like they're ready to move forward without them. Poor Tom Holland just came out saying that if they end up going away from Marvel and Sony decides to make the next few movies, that they'll still be good. They'll just be very different. And not going to lie, when I first saw this, I immediately thought of Mark Hamill during the release of The Last Jedi. Remember before the premiere, in all the interviews, he would constantly take shots at the director and drop little hints to the fans that it was not going to be what we were expecting or what we wanted. He kept doing it and just speaking his mind and warning the fans, trying to prepare them for what was to come until Disney caught on and got worried that it would turn too many people off from wanting to see the movie, and they shut him up. From then on, all he said about the movie was that it would still be good and that you should come watch it, basically trying to patch up any damage he did before they stopped him from speaking his mind. This is the same thing with Tom Holland, but this time they got to him before he could trash the new direction, and all he got to do was unfollow everything Sony on his Instagram. You don't unfollow Sony when you're excited that they're taking over. Disney's just much tighter with him because of his past of letting spoilers slip out that they immediately addressed how he should respond. I don't think it'd be as bad as The Last Jedi necessarily, but hopefully they won't have to make any movies without Marvel in the first place. And honestly, I don't blame Sony for biting the bullet and stepping away from the table right now. Sure, it might make them look bad in the moment, but I'm sure whoever made that decision knew what Disney was trying to do and knew that it would pass over. Disney tried to leverage their fans against them and pressure them into giving them half the earnings. But by waiting for everything to settle down, Sony has completely avoided making any rash decision to get out of the negative view of the public and has eliminated Disney's leverage over them with a pressure tactic. I think by the end of this year, this will all be settled and they'll have agreed on Disney getting 15% and getting to put it on their new streaming site or something. I'm pretty sure as of now, Sony's still refusing to negotiate anything with them, but I didn't think that any of this could affect their already standing contract. I thought Marvel would still be producing the third Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and that they'd both have to sign new contracts for when they film the fourth one. But that may not be the case. Tom Holland and a team of creatives just pitched Spider-Man 3 to Sony, and they said although it'll be different from the vision Kevin Feige originally had, it'll still use all the groundwork they set up for him in Far From Home, and the third one will pick right up where the second one left off. But Kevin Feige's creative direction is incredible, and we've got to witness this firsthand throughout the last 10 years of Marvel movies. I just really hope they can both come to terms and agree on something that's good for everyone, including the fans. But I think when a deal is eventually reached, it would be really cool if they did something big to announce the new agreement, since we can see how many people genuinely care about this character. Like, can you imagine if they got J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson to announce it, and they had him do like a video broadcast saying like what a menace Spider-Man is and that we should be happy we won't be seeing any more of him. And then his assistant comes in and hands him this new development that a new deal has been reached and goes on to dreadfully announce that Spider-Man will be coming back to take his rightful place in the Marvel universe. And then he goes right back into ranting about all the vigilantes running wild in the city. I think that would be awesome. It would be so creative to see, and it would just be the perfect re-entry piece to let us know everything between Marvel and Sony is good again. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they got in a fight and couldn't agree on whose Twitter or YouTube to announce it on. But it's just funny because this whole ordeal literally negates the entire video I just made. I still think it's a really good video and you should definitely go watch it, but I got excited and wanted to theorize how possible a live-action Spider-Verse crossover would be, and then a week later they completely cut off all ties to Marvel. They wouldn't be able to use Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness movie to introduce Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to the MCU because Tom Holland's Spider-Man won't even be there. Honestly, I think Disney was just flexing their grip on the media to try to peer pressure Sony into letting them use their character while making off with half the profits. But we're hoping they get past everything and continue giving us amazing Spider-Man movies. It seems like Sony really wants to have Spider-Man in their Venom universe. Maybe they could work together some dream deal where Sony can use him in future Venom movies and Marvel can keep working with them to make standalones and keep putting him in Avengers movies, but I can't help to think that seems a little far-fetched. I mean, we can always dream, right? But thanks for watching the video. I'm gonna put an end card on the screen to subscribe. All you have to do is click this circle. It couldn't be any easier. Please share this video with a friend and comment down below on what you think would happen if Sony kept Spider-Man to themselves and didn't let Marvel use him anymore. And I'm finally getting settled into the new apartment. Thank you so much for all the love and support throughout the process. I've got another video dropping next week and I want to see you back there. But until then, I will see you in the comments. Peace.